Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode here on I've Got 10. Happy Thursday. Hopefully, I know there was a big bug with Facebook yesterday, so I think hopefully we should be live and we're good to go. But I'm very, very excited this morning to be with Mary Fisher Day, who's the founder of the dental business. And we're going to talk on the podcast today about something that is very important, serious in some regards. It's, a lot of the passion that Mary brings to a lot of the people that she works with. And we were kind of thinking about, what would be a good topic for her to talk about on the video podcast. We're going to get into some high level points that Mary's going to talk about on the video podcast today. And then like we've been doing with our Dental Consultant Connection podcast series, we're going to go over, we're going to record an audio podcast, share a little bit more about Mary's story and get into more detail about this very, very important work that she is doing in regards to protecting the value of your practice and your legacy, which I love what you're doing. I think it's great. And welcome to the podcast, Mary.
Thanks, John. I'm honored to be here.
It is beautiful where you're at. As everybody can see, you're outside in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a gorgeous day.
Yes, we have had so much rain. I had to come celebrate and sit outside and listen to the birds and let anybody else. There's a lot of bad weather in the Midwest, I know. So live vicariously.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks again. And I know what we wanted to talk about today, and I think you're going to start everybody with a story which really connects to the work that you're doing.
So. Okay, good. Hey, everyone. I'm happy to be here. What I want to tell you about, I was writing a book a couple of years ago, and in August of 2016, over the news came an announcement about a plane crash. And it was 6 people. There were 3 couples. Turns out they were leaving Dentsply Sirona's Sirona World. Their plane crashed, and they all died. Between them, they left 11 children and 7 practices with deceased owners. No leadership or anything. Some of their friends came together and started fundraisers to take care of the children in the interim, but if they didn't have that network of friends to come in and help them, and some of it was very difficult. Some of the practices didn't sell as quick as they had hoped. I'm sure the value wasn't what it would have been. And here's my thought on that. What was their plan? Did they have a plan? They set 11 children with no parents. And then the 7 practices. So that's 7 practices with employees and patients. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So I've been thinking about that a lot. And then as having worked in transitions in the past too, I've worked with doctors who are ready to, in the last 10 or 15 years of their practice, all the way up to ready to transition, and realize nobody has a plan here. There's not a plan. They have no emergency exit strategy. If something happens to them and they were to become disabled or worse, die, what happens to their practice? We know that the value of a practice drops between 5 and 10% per week when a dentist dies. That's horrible news, and everybody knows that it's happened. So what do? You have a plan in place. So I've been working on an emergency directive. A lot of people have different forms of this, but mine, the one I've worked on, really goes straight to the heart of the practice so that you can protect your family. There's something to take care of your children immediately, or your spouse. If your spouse isn't with you, hopefully, when you die, if you both die, then this would be part of your will too. All right. So the emergency directive, first I'll tell you who I suggest you give it to. Your attorney needs a copy, your CPA, if you have a close connection with them, the executor of your estate, and somebody close enough to you that you trust them to take care of this, to get the documents to the right people, but they're not immediate family or somebody who is going to be so devastated that they can't think straight if something happens to you. So I really hope that you guys that are dentists will listen to this, because it's happening more and more. Dentists are dying younger, and there's no plan. There is no plan. You've got a will. That doesn't take care of your practice. Your will not take care of your practice. Okay? So here are some things that you would want to put in your emergency directive, okay? Of course, the name of the owner, doing business as, and the executor. All of that needs to be in there, and you need the executor to sign that they understand what all of this is, because it's an emergency practice directive. And then you want essential accounts. And the account names, username, login, passwords, anything like that. Essential accounts mean like credit cards. All of your credit cards. Put your personal and your business there. And the same thing, you want the username, login, password, account number even. And then practice management software, same thing, all your logins for that. Hopefully you've got the administrative login, the one that can access everything. If you're the only one with that, how does anybody get to the reports needed to help transition your practice or sell your practice for you? Patient communication software, same thing. If you have an in-house membership plan, those details, care credit, ClearGauge, anyone you're using to finance, merchant services. And then of course, you need your attorney listed. Attorney, email address, phone number, address, so that whoever needs to get in touch with them and who has this document can. Because it's probably not going to be your attorney that hears about your death first or your disability first. It will be probably that first level person that I mentioned. It could be the executor of your account, but someone who is close enough to you that you trust them, but they're not part of your immediate family. Okay. And of course you want a copy of this in your safe or whatever too, but so they would then have the information to get in touch with your attorney, your CPA, financial advisors, tax planning, anyone like that has information that is required to tie up your state and sell your practice. Your DEA information, because of course you want that, your DEA account suspended immediately so no one can write prescriptions on you. Disability insurance, you want the policy number, address, contact information. That's if you're disabled, obviously. Life insurance, for obvious reason. You're probably going to have a life insurance policy on your practice if it's not paid off, and then you should have one for your family as well. Overhead insurance, same thing. Bank overhead insurance should cover you if you die. Let me get back to that a second. Should cover you if you die for a certain amount of time until you sell the practice. Now, you're hoping that you only need it for a certain amount of time. It depends on how the policy is written, so be careful about that. Make sure it's not just for disability, okay? Because if you die, how's your overhead going to be paid? If it's not paid, if your staff's not paid, you're really gone, right? There's no sense in having somebody come work in your practice. And then supplemental insurance policies, your bank accounts, personal, business, mortgage, practice, office. I mean, everything of that, your mortgage, your practice mortgage insurance information, everything that it would take, a copy of your lease or a copy of your mortgage, things like that. If you've had a practice valuation, there are a lot of different opinions on practice valuations. But if you've had a practice valuation, definitely make sure there are copies of it, so that will make the sale of your practice go so much more quickly. And then a copy of your will. And practice management reports every year, take your end of year entire practice management report and put it with this document, okay? And then update it. You will also have a list of all of your employees, their names, their email addresses, and their phone numbers, and their position, because things have to be addressed. And the key employee, who do they reach out to? What do they do next? So I know this isn't the most fun topic, but it's an important topic to me these days because I'm hearing more and more of this doctor died at 38 or this doctor died at 45. I believe all of these doctors that I mentioned a while ago may have been under 40. I know they were around that age, and their children were all out underage. So, and it's happening. Doctors hit riding their bicycles in the morning for exercise. I'm hearing stuff all the time. Plane crashes. That's happened a lot lately. Doctors flying themselves and having some plane crashes. So it's not an exciting topic, but I did want to mention it, give you some ideas of what to have in the document, and also offer to, if you want to email me, I actually have these documents and that I have taken from my years of experience as practice management, my years of experience in transitions, and put it all together. And I know what you need. I know what it takes to sell a practice. I know exactly what everybody's going to want to see real quick, and so I can help. This document will help you have it all in one place so that you can get it straight to whoever's handling it for your practice. You can even list a broker or somebody that knows that handles practice transitions so that they can get on it quickly. You can put that in this document. So can you imagine if say you're a man and you die and your wife or your children had to gather all the information it would require to sell your practice?
Yes.
I can't imagine. So this is putting it all in one place for you. That's the reason I'm so passionate about this, and kind of excited to announce that over the next few days I'm launching, and that is not the reason for this podcast. It's just happened to happen this way. This is truly my passion. Over the next few days, and I've been working on it for months, I'll be launching a new division of my business called Legacy Dental Coach. And this is what I want to help doctors do, not just this, but prepare their practice for sale.
Yep.
Within the last 10 or 15 years of your practice, when you're starting to think about it a little bit, you need to have a plan in place, not only this emergency directive, but kind of, how long do I want to work? Am I going to want to bring in an associate, or which is the smarter thing to do if you become tired, rather than stepping down your hours. Otherwise, the value of your practice is going to drop very quickly because you're still got a lot of the same overhead that you would have otherwise, assuming you're still paying all of your employees the same. If you're not, that affects the value of your practice too. So there's so many things like that that affect the value. And I just really hope you guys will take this to heart. It's very, very important that you protect everything you've worked so hard for. Young dentists are coming out of school now with anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000 in dental school debt. Right. You've got to have that taken care of. And if you've got a young family, you've got to have them taken care of. Even if you don't have a young family, you need to think about your staff, your patients, your legacy. What is your legacy going to be?
Yep. Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for sharing all that. I think, like you and I talked earlier this week on what we were going to talk about here on the podcast, we were sharing and trying to wrap our head around why this doesn't happen as often. It's pretty obvious, right, Mary? This is not the easiest thing. Everybody is in go mode. This will never happen to me, all that type of stuff. But we know that life happens. And, as I shared with you, my father was 52 years old and he passed. He just fell. One day he was here, next day he was gone. And it took me back talking to you about the weeks and months of all the things that my mother had to do in an effort to be able to, put all the pieces together. And he was not running a dental practice, and so I can't even imagine the complexity and all the things that you mentioned. And it's just, I think it's awesome, that you're, kind of putting a stake in the ground here and saying, hey, helping teams with this because it's important. And honestly, I think it's going to take somebody like yourself to probably get them to move forward on this because it's not easy. Like we said, this is something that is not easy, but you got to have it in one place. You got to think about it. And like you said, Mary, it's important to think about everybody that is a part of your life, your family, your practice. That really is the driving force to this, is to thinking about all of those that surround you.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that those three couples, when they went to Serona World, they were coming back home to their 11 children on Sunday afternoon, and the plane crashed on the way home.
Yep.
Can you imagine? I just can't. So, but it happens. We are not guaranteed everything, and we can't control everything. But one thing you can control is you can have this document, you can put it in the right hands, and you can make sure that your family is taken care of if something happens to you. You can't control when you die,
Yep.
probably. You can't control what happens after you die,
Right.
except with a will and something like this, an emergency directive that tells everybody what your wishes are, what you want done, and puts all the information in a easy to decipher format.
Excellent. Well, and Mary, just so you know, while you were talking about a lot of those different things, we went ahead and put your email up on the screen so people will be able to see that. We'll have that in the comment section. If I also put the phone number up for DCC, if you want to get in touch with Mary, the Dental Consultant Connection page where you can get in touch with her, what have you. I know Robin Morrison has put together a great team, and it's been, as we continue to go through this podcast series, and I speak with each of you weekly, Robin was so right. All of you have this expertise that you're bringing to dentistry, and so it's been super rewarding. And yeah, and the one last thing I thought about with that emergency directive is the fact that I can also imagine that there's another value with people getting that together. I mean, how many times have you been working with somebody when they've put that together, and that's important for if something was to happen to the legacy? But also, I would think some other things come from that. There's probably some value that when you start to piece all these things together, you might realize, why are we using this? Why are we doing this? When all that stuff is scattered, as you know, Mary, it's out of sight, out of mind, right? When we put it in one place, I'll bet you it solves problems in the here and now for maybe
right
with those types of things.
Well, and there's a couple of things I didn't mention, because you would want the last 3 years of your tax returns would need to be with it. You need your last profit and loss as well. And you can look at things like your profit and loss and start, people don't even think to look at it often. They're starting to more, and you realize where something's off really bad on your profit and loss, and you can adjust it. And again, that's part of protecting the value of your practice, protecting your legacy, and making sure your family is better taken care of. Because seriously, who doesn't want to get some money out of their practice? A lot of people use that as their retirement. Hopefully not always, but it is. I mean, if you're still paying off student loans like some of us did into our 40s, because we kept going back to school, it's hard. It's hard. Absolutely. So yes, and you're right. You will find out so many things going through this process that it's really eye-opening.
Valuable for a lot of different reasons. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure having you come on and talking to you. Like we said, everybody, Mary and I are going to go off here. We're going to record the audio podcast. We're going to have Mary share a little bit more about her story, which I'm really excited to learn more about. And then also get into some of the same detail on the audio podcast. We know many of you can watch here on Facebook, but I know a lot of you like to listen to audio podcasts driving to the practice, whatever the case may be. So we'll have that available for you on the DentalCast Productions website page. So Mary, we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye from Charlotte.